watching you just be so successful in life and confident in wearing your headscarf has actually sort of inspired and motivated me.
Mate, I'm English. What's the matter with you? Bad times are only negative when you don't learn a lesson from them. Stay away from social media or dating apps when you're a single mum. Who is this lady in Toronto? Give me her details. Welcome to Emily Abraham Presents the Love Luxury podcast. We've got something different today. It's a live phone-in. So we have got 6 people with 6 very different questions. I cannot wait to see what they've got in store for me today. Hi Zara, it's Emily. How can I help?
Hiya, hope you're well. Since discovering you guys as a business and sort of individual content creators, I've actually become really inspired by your ability to grow both financially and religiously. And watching you just be so successful in life and confident in wearing your headscarf has actually sort of inspired and motivated me to start my headscarf journey. And I was actually really conflicted during that Ramadan about whether or not I should start it. And it was almost like a sign that your TikToks kept appearing on my For You page. And so I just sort of want to thank you for helping to empower and inspire Muslim women. And it's just so lovely seeing, and respectful Muslim women being shown in a good light. So I suppose my question to you is, how did you cope and sort of adapt to the changes with wearing a headscarf? And, do you have any advice for anyone who's trying out or perhaps struggling to wear one?
So it's a really good question because I don't know what your heritage is, but my heritage is that basically I'm English. I was born and bred here. And so it was never something that was, requested of me growing up, or even something that the women in my family did. It just wasn't part of our way of life. So when I decided to start wearing the headscarf, it was accidental. I don't know if you know the story. I bleached my hair blonde. It was brassy. I put a purple shampoo on it, left it on too long, my hair turned purple. And so that's how I came to start wearing my headscarf. I said to my husband I'd only wear it for 2 or 3 weeks. And then he asked me why I was still wearing it. And I said, because it's become a part of who I am. At the beginning, I found it really hard. I'll be honest with you. Because the whole reason we cover our hair is because a woman's hair is beauty. It's part of our beauty, isn't it? And so I felt that by covering my hair, I didn't look as feminine, I didn't look as attractive, and I was wearing it sort of like like a normal hijab style, and I was feeling constantly suffocated. I couldn't cope with that sense, that sensation, that feeling. So what I did was I just sat down and I literally watched hundreds of YouTube videos, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to play around with some scarves and see what suits me. And I basically just found a style all of my own. I will be honest though, one thing that I noticed was how much prejudice I received since wearing my headscarf.
Yeah, I completely agree. Definitely,
And I think that for me was the hardest part, because I wasn't expecting it, because I'm still a white woman. But one example was that Adam and I jumped in a black cab and we asked the cabbie to turn right, and he refused, and he basically drove past the right turn, and he was trying to drive us this really long convoluted route. And we said to him, drive, you've gone past the turn-in, you could have turned right there. He pulled his cab over and he went, get out of my effing cab, you effing Arabs. And I was so shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was just dumbfounded. And I was like, mate, I'm English. What's the matter with you? And I just couldn't believe that someone could be so racist to someone just because of how they're wearing their headscarf, or just because of the fact they're wearing a headscarf and they're with a man who's brown, So I dread to think how bad it is for women of colour, because I am a white woman at the end of the day and I've noticed it. And maybe I notice it more because I never experienced it before, and then putting the headscarf made people think that I was a woman of colour in a way, or a different ethnicity to them.
Completely agree, because I'm a person of colour, so I noticed that as soon as I started wearing it in my workplace, people immediately switched up and didn't want to speak to me, or were just giving a lot of attitude that they never gave before. And it kind of has like this sort of oh my God, well, is it the right thing for me to be wearing it? It plants a seed of doubt. But then I just think to myself, well, I have to do it just for my religion. And, you know, you just have to suffer, and hopefully the end reward will be worth it.
Look, at the end of the day, the harder it is, the greater the rewards are going to be for you. And first of all, and I'd also like to say thank you for saying that we helped to inspire you to put your headscarf on, because that's a really wonderful thing to hear from me. And also, you know, congratulations to you for doing it, because I know it's not an easy step for a lot of women. So just...
If I see your headscarf tutorial on TikTok, that I've been wearing...
Oh, bless you. That's good. It's good. You know, I see young girls who maybe would not have worn a headscarf, and I see them and they're now wearing headscarves the same way I wear mine. So it makes me feel great to know that in some way I'm helping other Muslims become more attached to their faith, because that's what it is essentially, isn't it?
Thank you, because I was really sort of in two minds about it, and it was honestly like a sign from God that you just kept appearing on my For You page, and it was just uplifting. Like, you can be successful, you can wear a headscarf and do well in life. You just need to sort of persevere and get on with it. And so I just want to thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you for saying it. I just would say, for anybody else watching that feels that they get prejudice at work, they're not respected, just persevere with it. So I know what you said. Sometimes it makes you feel like, are you even doing the right thing? Just, I promise you, persevere with it, because the shaitan is always trying to undo the good we do, right? And he's going to always plant these little seeds of doubt in our minds. And that's via other people being disrespectful, rude, dismissive, however they may be. But if you just keep on the path, I promise you it's going to be worth it, because the blessings that have come to us as a family since we decided to be practicing Muslims, honestly, our lives have changed. And I believe for everybody that when it's harder, the blessings are far greater.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you.
That's my pleasure. Thanks, Zara.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Take care.
And you.
Bye. So I just answered that call from Zara, and it was about headscarves. What greater blessing could we have had to start this live chat off with? Thanks, Zara, for calling in. Hi, Vishali, how are you? Fire away with your question.
Hi, Emily. So I just had a question for you. I feel very lost in my life at the moment. I've always had a mindset of, always be strong, don't become a victim in life, take care of yourself. Fast forward to today, I've sort of found myself at a stage in life where I'm really burnt out, I'm really lost. I've been labelled the black sheep of the family, so I've never really had their support. I've really been able to rely on them for advice and things like that. So essentially, I'm really just looking for some motherly advice. What sort of advice can you give me at this stage of my life where I just feel really lost and don't really know what to do with myself?
So I'm really sorry to hear that, because obviously nobody wants to hear that anybody else is not doing very well. It makes me sad to hear you say that, to be honest with you. I feel that the most important thing that you can do is to find happiness within yourself. And I know it's a cliche. I know that it's a cliche. But when you find happiness within yourself, you literally will be able to find happiness externally. So don't rely on a man, don't rely on a job, don't rely on your family. Realise that you and only you are going to get you through all the times, the hard times, the easy times, the fun times, the sad times. I think that's probably the first thing. The second thing is, every single person that I meet who says they're the black sheep of the family are very successful people. So don't feel that being the black sheep of the family is a negative thing. Yeah? It's not.
Yeah, no.
It's not a negative thing. I'll tell you why it's not a negative thing. Because being the black sheep of the family teaches you to be independent. And when you're independent, then you can grow even more inner strength. And I know you're feeling down now. Everybody goes through down times. Everybody does. I have. Adam has. Everybody I know, everybody goes through down times, but it's not how you feel at the time, because you're feeling it, and it's independent to you. However, when you pull through and you come out the other side, you're going to look back and you're going to say to yourself, what on earth was I even worrying about? But you'll find something from that. And one thing I say to everybody is, bad times are only negative when you don't learn a lesson from them, okay? Negativity is what is holding half of this world's population back. More than that, 75% of this world's population back. You have to find the one thing that makes you happy. Is it reading a book? Is it watching a Disney movie? Is it going for a walk? Is it stuffing your face with a slice of cake? I don't care what that thing is that makes you happy. Do it once a day. Then when you start to recognize that happiness and that feeling of happiness, then you can learn to start pushing away negative things away from you. People, situations, conversations, relationships. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not easy. I know it's not.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I definitely always sort of tied my happiness to, which maybe it's not necessarily the healthiest way to do it, but I've always sort of tied my happiness down to being successful. And I think I've gotten to a stage in my life where maybe I don't really know what being successful is. I mean, my childhood was based around a lot of abuse at the time, and sort of my mum went through a lot of abuse, and she kind of became very stuck in her life, and because of that she wasn't really able to offer me a lot of things like guidance and support of, you know, how I navigate myself through life in tough situations. So I think I've kind of grown up with the ideology that success means breaking out of sort of the pattern that my mum had, but that's the part that I really feel like I'm struggling with, you know.
So when you say you feel like you're stuck in the same situation, is that relationship wise?
Just sort of, if more so with direct family. In terms of relationships, you know, I have had abusive relationships, but I think because I've been quite aware of abuse from when I was young, I've grown up really being able to identify, okay, look, this isn't right, or, you know, this isn't the healthiest situation. I have been able to break out of that in terms of relationships, but I think when you grow up without a mum, I think a lot of my experience with my family has been codependency, and I think that's probably the part that I'm struggling with so much.
To be honest with you, I think the question that you're asking is so broad, there's no straight answer about it. The only thing that I can say to you is to do what I did, and that's if you feel that somebody is A, holding you back, B, being abusive, or C, controlling you in any way, you have to get away from the situation, whether it's family, friends, relationships. You're far better off as an individual than you are as part of a group that you find yourself feeling negative emotions and feelings about. Does that make sense? I understand what you're saying, like you've got no guidance, you feel like you've got no guidance, but I'll be honest with you, most successful people don't have guidance, but you've got to find what makes you happy. You've got to find what you're good at. You said you're already successful. You said you've already found your happiness. It seems to me like your family is the only thing that's holding you back. And I'm not a home wrecker. I don't believe that people should not have relationships with their family. If you've got a family and it's a healthy relationship, then it's fine. But if your relationship with your family when you go there fills you with dread and makes you feel rubbish about yourself, and like you said, you're the black sheep of the family, then perhaps spending a lot less time there and building relationships with the people that don't make you feel like that. So improving on the relationships with the people that don't make you feel worthless and make you feel like you don't know where you're going, because there should always be somebody that's in your corner, particularly when you've got family. Can I ask you, are you religious?
So I'm not particularly religious, neither is my family, but I have sort of had I've always felt like I've been attracted to Islam. There's a lot of things in the religion that I do relate to, and I kind of do find solace and peace in. With my family, my family is originally Hindu, so there's always been that really big controversy between practicing Islam or even looking into the religion. So it's again, that's something that is really sort of frowned upon in my family. And to be honest, if my family ever knew that I did look into it, again, that it'd just be another excuse to say, oh, you're the black sheep and so and so. But I do understand what you've said in regards to sort of taking away the negative feelings from being a black sheep. But I have looked into Islam and I have started recently reading the Quran, but I wouldn't go as far as saying I am religious or practice it at this point.
Sometimes when we're feeling lost, what we're missing is faith in something else. You could be Muslim, you could be Buddhist, you could be Hindu, you could be Christian, Jehovah's Witness, whatever it is. People, I believe, when they're in dark spots, need to have faith, a belief that there's something greater than them, that when they say a prayer, or as we say, make dua, that somebody's listening, that there's a higher power that's there that can support us and give us strength. I feel like if your family are not particularly religious and you haven't been brought up religiously, I'm not telling you to become a Muslim. I'm not. I'm telling you, find out about different faiths, see what works well for you. And if it's being a Muslim, if it's being a Hindu, whichever beliefs suit you and your belief system and make you feel good about yourself, I feel like potentially that's what's missing in your life, is having that faith. So we just had Vashani call in and I really felt for her. It's a really horrible feeling to feel like you're an outcast, to feel like you have no direction, to feel like you've got no one in your corner. I think that if she can just spend some time working on herself, then her whole outlook will improve. And it's very hard sometimes to get yourself out of those ruts, but you have to have faith in yourself. And one thing that I learned is that even in the dark times, you're going to learn something that will help you in your future life. So then it doesn't become a negative, it becomes a positive. Hi, Emily. It's Emily. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you. Yeah.
How can I help?
So it was just a question, really. For the past sort of few months, I've been really lost starting a new job. I love the job that I'm doing. However, I've been going through a few issues with my old job and in my personal life. So it was, what is the biggest lesson you've learned in your life allowing to be where you are? So giving the best advice to a 25-year-old that's sort of a little bit lost with what she wants to do.
I think don't put too much pressure on yourself. You're only 25, Em. You've got your whole life ahead of you to be putting pressure on yourself. I honestly think that as women, we find ourselves emotionally wise a lot later on in life. I feel that some of us are lucky enough to feel hormonally balanced and settled quite young, but I think the majority of us do struggle with that. And I think if I was talking to a 25-year-old me, I would say the first thing I would say is have children later on in life. That's the first thing I would say. Focus on a career. So just focus on your career now. Whatever your old job is trying to do, don't let it bother you. You're not there anymore. You've moved on and you like in your new job. So throw yourself into your new job because it's something you enjoy. And if you're feeling a little bit lost from time to time, that's okay. You're 25. It's not the end of the world. And don't forget that everything you see on social media, it's all set up. It's all fake. You know, half of these people are miserable, even though they're smiling in front of a camera. And don't compare yourself to anybody else. Everybody has their own timeline. Just take it easy, enjoy your life, have life experiences, and just keep negative people away from you. I think that would probably be one of my biggest pieces of advice. If there's someone that talks negatively, makes you feel negatively, or is just a negative force in general, just wipe those people out. Don't be afraid of walking away from people because new people come along and you have to find your tribe the people that suit your energy. And I don't think that happens very often earlier on in life.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a case of obviously just the new job and having to take a pay cut and stuff like that. I've kind of just felt a bit lost, but that's really good advice to sort of put me on a better path than I was on.
Yeah, just if you prefer this job and that there's a chance of you developing and getting your wages back up through the ranks of this job. I mean, I don't know, what's your new job?
A police officer.
Listen, what better could you do? You're helping people. I know there's going to be pressures, yeah, but you're doing something that's really positive. And if you love it and you apply yourself to that role, who's to say you can't work your way up the ranks? You can.
Yeah.
Focus. Don't worry about anybody else. Just do you, and just remember, you're only 25. I didn't become successful until I was 40. Most people don't become successful until they're later on in life. You know the guy Colonel Sanders from KFC?
Yeah.
He was 79 before he made money. And look at his name now. So you can't base success, you can't base anything. Just do what you're doing, be happy, do the things that make you happy. I had a very similar call just now. And I honestly, I'm a massive believer in just removing yourself from negative forces, negative people, negative energy, and also train yourself to only speak positively. And when you start doing that and practicing that, you're going to see that everything around you becomes positive, I promise.
That's really good, thank you. I'll definitely try.
You will.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Take care, Emily. Good luck with your new job.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So that was Emily, my namesake. She's 25 years old and just become a police officer and finding it a little bit difficult to take the pay cut. But she will get there. There's a lot of opportunities in the police force, and I think there are in most jobs nowadays. If you're young, you apply yourself and you're ambitious, the world's your oyster. Hi Noelle, how are you today? How can I help?
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Right. It's not really a help. I think it was mainly a sort of a quick, important discussion between women for other women, which I think is becoming much more important now in this day and age to address the mental of women in general, but also especially maybe the mental of the woman after birth, once they become a mother, in the life after that, and what can trigger, what cannot trigger, if that's okay.
Yes, I agree. I think anybody's mental health is really important, but I think you're right. When women have children, I don't think anybody estimates just how hard it is. And I think that there's a lot of women who, after they have children, find it very mentally tough. They have some depression, and that in itself, whilst you're looking after a newborn baby or young children, is really hard to deal with. It's not an easy. Being a parent with a clear head is not easy. Being a parent who's suffering from postpartum depression, I think the women who pull through it are absolute soldiers. And you're right, it is something that we should talk about. It is something that we should be made more aware of.
Yeah.
I remember when I was young, before I had children, all my family and friends would, my family, older friends that had children, because I always kind of associated with people who were a lot older than me. They always, when I got pregnant, they were like, oh, it's really hard work. And people used to say to me that it was hard work a lot. And I'd be like, yeah. I was 22 when I got pregnant. I was 23 when I had my first child. I was like, I can do this. I'm a soldier. I've been through worse. This is going to be a piece of cake, a walk in the park. And then after I had my son, if somebody asked me how hard it was, I used to say to them, I can say in your ear every second of the day for a full year, it's hard work, it's hard work, it's hard work, it's hard work. and you will still not understand the gravity of how much hard work it is. And I think it's not just because being a parent is tough, because it is, it has its rewards. I think it's that when we are not mentally prepared, we don't understand that there's so much involved. It's not just changing nappies and feeding the baby and getting up at night. It's actually, you lose yourself, you lose your friends, you know, you sometimes you lose your relationship.
That's true.
Sometimes you lose your family as well, because you may not see things the same way that other people see things. And I think being a woman, being a man, anybody these days, it's tough. But when you're a parent, it's even tougher. It really is.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's, I think, the bigger problem I think we are having in a society. And I am, for example, Muslim, and I know, for example, in Muslim communities, it's sometimes a taboo to talk about mental health. And, you know, for example, I grew up with my mother never preparing me to what motherhood is, you know. You get married and then you have a child and you figure it out. But like you said, I think people do not tell you what the real deal is, especially mentally. The hormone level going ups and down, the sleepless nights, the sleep deprivation, whatever we can think of. And then suddenly it comes as a shock. But I think people should appreciate when someone comes and say, hey, it's hard, I'm struggling. Because the most of the time, people's response is, well, you wanted a child, or, well, it's your job, you're the mom, you know, you deal with it, or anything very negative, and who will kind of put the woman more down, which at that level, when you are going through, like you said, a postpartum depression or any sort of depression after that event in your life of giving a birth, should be filled with appreciation, love, positive words, encouraging the person, even if you don't know what is it about, even if you don't know how it feels to have a postpartum depression. But the affirmation towards the person, I think, is something which is very much uplifting. And as a human, we tend to forget about it. The first thing we always will hear is probably criticizing, or, you know, or having your mother saying, well, you know, you will be fine, just do it. Yeah, but I will need a little bit of encouragement sometimes. Encouragement from the husband, from the family, from the mother, from the in-laws, anybody. And the more we go through life, and I'm talking with experience, for example, I have 2 children and I went through 2 massive postpartum depression. My second one, actually, funny enough, was worse than my first one. I think I was too young. I was 22 when I had my daughter to realize what the depression was when you are 22. But I think now, at my age of 37, I can sit down and say, I'm not okay, I'm struggling, I'm not feeling all right, I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, and this is how I feel, and that's okay to feel like this. That's okay to feel this emotion, because we are entitled to those emotions. And what I'm asking right here, right now from people is not to judge me, not to tell me you wanted another child, so it's your fault or it's your responsibility, but to say, you know what, it's okay, you're doing a great job, you will go through it, it's just a matter of time, things will get better. And it's very hard, I think, as a woman to really push yourself forward and uplift yourself on your own when you are already down. What do you think?
Yes, I think it is. I think it takes a great deal of mental strength. I do feel that exactly a lot of what I agree with nearly everything you said. I don't think there's anything I disagreed with. I think, though, also as women, we need to understand and we need to recognize that actually self-acceptance is key as well. We don't need to be comparing ourselves to another mum or another social, what are they called, celebrity, because everybody's individual circumstance is very different. I think that the external pressures on us as families, as parents, as children, as mothers, as husbands, as wives, I feel like the pressure these days is very intense, and that's because of social media. I think that social media plays a very negative role in nearly everybody's lives these days. I've said this on 2 phone calls already today. I also very much feel that we have the power to be able to help ourselves, and the way we can do that is to not allow negative people around us and negative energies around us, because I mean, it seems to be a theme so far in the conversations that I'm saying that, and it's because I was that depressed woman. I was on citalopram. I suffered from anxiety. I shut myself off from the world. I only focused on my children. My house was immaculate all the time. I was in complete control, but I was miserable inside. And it wasn't until I learned that actually, do you know what? If I don't do the dishes today, it's not the end of the world. And if I can't do the laundry, no problem. They've got hundreds of other clothes. It's not the end of the world if I don't get all my chores done. And actually that helped me bring balance in my life, because what that allowed me then to do was find time for myself. And as a mother, as a parent, we do need to find time for ourselves. And you're right, if our family should be there. And I also really agree with what you said about how in Islam, being or mentioning the word depression has a massive negative connotation. It really does. Look, I know it speaks in the Quran about depression, and I know that, but I also feel that it is an actual it's scientifically proven. It's an illness that is cured by medication. So if you are a person who isn't situationally depressed, so I'm not talking about people who may something bad's happened, so they're feeling down. That's normal. That's a normal behavior. It's a normal feeling. People who actually have depression need to go to the doctors. You should always go and seek help. If you don't feel you can talk to your family about it, go and talk to a GP, ring a helpline. There's always somebody somewhere that will be able to help you. But you're right. I do think that there are times when mums need to turn around and say, I'm not coping very well. Let me just take some time out. I just need a night to myself or 2 nights to myself, and let the other family help out for a little while. Because if we think about back in the day, family units were massive, and children were looked after by huge amounts of people. It was never just one person's responsibility. The family unit was a tribe. And I feel like we've lost that over time, because people have travelled, they move away from their family, they get married to their husband, move to a different country, whatever the case may be. So it's less easy to do that. But if people have that capability to be able to say, Mum, I need a break, I need a night off, I need you to look after the children, it's for my mental health, that the parents should then turn around and say, actually, I 100% agree with you. You're my daughter. I love my grandchildren. Let me have them for the weekend.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It all starts from the communication first.
Yes.
And being able to speak up, to recognize where the problem is, and take it from there, really. And sometimes I feel I have a lot of friends around who suffer from postpartum depression, and they all ring me like I turn up to be like the therapist, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? It's okay to feel like this. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay if you want to scream or shout, or, you know, you need to go to the gym, you need to put some music and dance like nobody is saying you. Just do it.
I agree.
It's for you. Because if you do not take care of yourself first, you will never be able to take care of those little kids around. You will never be able to give them the maximum and the best of yourself.
Yes.
And if that means sometimes you need to be selfish, so be it.
I agree.
No one is there to judge you, and no one should be there to judge you, because at the end of the day, it's you and you only. So, yeah.
I agree. I think we both agree on that point, and we'll end it there. Thank you so much, Emily, for calling in. We appreciate your call. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was Noelle, not Emily. I'm getting confused because there's so many people I'm talking to today, so please forgive me. And on a very important topic, and we will put some links down below that if you are suffering from depression, that there are people out there. And don't worry about going to your doctor and telling your doctor how you feel, because that is what they are there for. If you don't have anybody else that you feel you can talk to, please go and talk to a doctor or ring one of the helplines below. Hi Layla, it's Emily.
Hi Emily.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for asking.
No worries. I just really wanted to ask more about your outlook on adoption. Really, I went through quite a similar experience. I watched your podcast and I was really quite relieved to hear that other people had been through sort of similar situations to me.
What was your situation? Tell me.
So my mum was the same age as your mum. She was 15, had me at 16. She was in absolutely no position at all to raise me. So I went into foster care. I got passed around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. It's not a great start in life, is it, for anybody to have to go through that? Yeah.
It wasn't great, but my mum passed away when I was 14, so I had that to deal with on top of everything else, so it wasn't great.
Is that your birth mum?
Yeah, she passed away when I literally met her on my 14th birthday. They managed to arrange something so I could meet her, but she passed away 6 months later, so it wasn't good.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all right. It's made me a stronger person for sure.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you something. Have you got children?
Yeah, I've got one son. He's almost 3.
So you've got a little 3-year-old boy.
Yeah.
What do you...
But I'm doing everything I can for him to give him a good life.
So that was going to be my question. What do you feel? How do you feel that your early life has affected you being a mother?
If anything, it's made me ensure that I give my son everything that I possibly can, no matter how difficult things are. Because I just never wanted any of my children to be in a system, to experience any kind of trauma. So I have literally just tried my best to just keep everything, as normal as possible and as fun and as happy as possible for him. It's hard work being a single mother, but at the same time, it's honestly so fulfilling, especially from the background I came from.
Do you know what? I have to be honest. I think that in itself, you've answered it for yourself, haven't you? Because the one thing that I took away from growing up in the care system and the experience that I had with my mum was all the things that I was never going to do. All those awful situations, all of those negative, experiences I knew my children were never going to experience. And
it's really quite inspirational for someone like myself to see someone like you. Like, you come from a difficult background, but you've become a successful, independent woman. And it's really motivating for people like myself.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's really kind of you to say that.
No, it's true.
Thank you. I think what you said to me at the beginning, the question was, what are my views on adoption?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see how, obviously I've watched your podcast, I've had an insight on everything, but it was more of just, how did you feel when you was growing up? Like, how did it make you feel?
I felt worthless. I felt unloved. Yeah. I felt that nobody cared enough about me to want me. I felt that it was my fault my mum died. I blamed myself for her being a drug addict. I blamed myself.
My mum was a drug addict as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the same, and I went through similar emotions. I thought maybe if I hadn't been born, it wouldn't have triggered her to do the things that she did. But obviously, we can't think like that.
You can't, because what you have to take, well, you don't have to, but what you can take from your upbringing is that actually it may have been negative for you, but it's going to be really positive for your children.
Of course.
If you had
my son, I said it. I said, there's no way I can ever show him any kind of the life that I had as a child. I'm obviously not my mum. I'm a different person. So I never wanted to be like her. I never wanted to have a similar life to her. I always wanted to be independent and just do my own thing, really. And that's what I've done, and I'm proud of myself.
And you should be. I'm proud of you as well, because I know it's not easy doing it alone.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. It really means a lot.
No, I mean it. It's not easy. I know how hard it is. And I just think...
I think one of the things I struggled with, in particular myself, was when I got adopted, my biological parents are Moroccan and Bangladeshi. So I got put into a family that wasn't necessarily not appropriate culturally.
Yeah.
So it gave me a lot of sort of problems, like identity problems. I didn't really know where I was from as a child.
Yeah.
So everything was just really confusing, but that was when I was little.
Yeah, I felt the same. My dad's Greek Cypriot, my mother was part Hungarian. I was put in with an English family, even though my foster dad looks like he's Indian.
Yeah, that was the same. It was exactly the same with me. I had an English foster, like adoptive mum, and an Asian foster dad.
Yeah, I mean, my foster dad and mum were married, but he looks Asian, but he's English.
Okay.
Yeah, but they were just really, I mean, you've seen the podcast with my mum. She's a really wonderful human being, but if you're not Greek and you're not Hungarian, you can't give me that. And I didn't know who I was.
Culturally, so
yeah.
It's difficult as a child when you're growing up and you're trying to work out your identity. Sorry, I'm just trying to walk past somewhere. Yeah, when you're a child and you're trying to work out who you are as a person and you're trying to get yourself together, and then you're with the wrong sort of ethnicity, you don't really know if you feel a bit out of place. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, I understand that. You feel like an outsider. I get that. I think though that what I was saying earlier was that even though you had a negative upbringing, the positive thing that you've got to take from that is that you are going to give your children the best life possible. If you only ever have your son, you're going to give your son the best life possible. If you have more children, you're going to give them the best life possible. Don't dwell on what has happened. Don't dwell on the past. Move on from it. And I think the majority of people who take children on for fostering and adoption are doing it for the right reasons. Obviously, there are people out there that do it for money, or they feel they're doing it for money, or whatever. They I don't know what negative reasons people could have. I don't even want to get into that. But in general, listen, there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of people out there that can't have children. There's a lot of people out there that are desperate to have a child and that they will adopt a child. And I think that to open your heart to somebody else's child and treat them as your own is a massive thing. And I have so much respect for people who do that. But I do agree with you. I grew up feeling very lost. I grew up, obviously, like I said, I had a tremendous amount of guilt. And I didn't know who I was or where I came from. And it wasn't until I met my dad when I was 19 that I really kind of realised, actually, do you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter who's raised you. Whoever's raised you, it's all about how much they've loved you, they've taken care of you. DNA is literally just a thing, and that is it. Yeah. It's who takes the time to take care of you and be there for you that's important, definitely.
100%. I absolutely agree with you. And like I said, I'm really proud of you for, I know how hard it is. And listen, if you ever feel that there's tough times, don't worry, because you always come out the other end.
Of course. Thank you so much for your advice. I was really happy to come on and talk to you, because when I saw your podcast, honestly, I just felt like a sense of relief. Just being able to hear someone else's story. It was a breath of fresh air.
My pleasure. And I'm glad that you came on to talk to me today. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. So that was Layla, who had a very similar early life experience to me, asking what my feelings were on adoption. And like I said, everything negative that happens in your life, there's always a positive that comes out of it. And I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't have had that life experience. Hi Bella, how are you?
Hi Emily, thank you for asking. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I hear that you're calling us all the way from Toronto.
Yes, that is correct. And I am a fan. I do love your posts. Very educational, entertaining, and actually fun to watch.
Oh, glad. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What was your question today?
So basically, my question was, as a single mother, how should she start, building a relationship and potentially getting married to? But because I've been single for such a long time, and dating sites actually scare me, and I'm like the old-fashioned way, I prefer in person because it's more genuine and you can build a connection. Well, online, anyone can post anything, right? It's like an advertisement. We don't know who they really are. So I was like, my question was, how does one get into that kind of, how does a single mother find a potential spouse is my question.
It's a really good question, because before your feelings, you have to think about the safety of your child.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this was something that actually, as a single mother, that I really worried about. I thought, what happens if I meet a paedophile and I bring him into my home,
Exactly.
and my children end up having, being abused, and I literally used to overthink it so much. I think one thing that I would say is stay away from social media or dating apps when you're a single mum, because it's human nature when you're a proud mother to tell people that you are a mum. It's human nature, right? We love our babies, we're proud of them, we want to show them off, we want to tell people. And you're right, people can be posing as somebody else. Oh yeah, I've got children too. Me and my ex-wife, we split up, or me and my ex-partner split up. We've got 2 kids together. They could be lying, sending you pictures of somebody else's children. You just don't know. Personally, I would never, as a single mum, meet a man from the internet. I think the only way to meet someone is through friends. So whether it's someone's cousin, someone works with someone, someone's boyfriend has got a friend. I think these are the only ways, because then you have a surefire way of telling whether, one, this person is who they say they are. Most people have very good senses as to whether their friends are bad people or not, because they spend a lot of time with them. Obviously, listen, nothing's 100%. And if anything does go wrong, we can't blame ourselves if we've taken every step to ensure our children's safety. But I think there are certain things as a woman who has children, steps that we can take. And me personally, I would tell all single mums never to meet a man online, because you just don't know who they are. And that persona that they're putting across is very easy for them to maintain for 6 months, a year. You just don't know what's on the other side of that. So my top advice would be just try and first of all, take it easy. Don't worry about finding a man is the first thing, because you've got your kids. Do you work?
Yeah, so I was married at a younger age. Young to this current generation. I was 25, and then I had my son when I was 27, and I was an entrepreneur. So I would take my son to my business, and people would judge me and have him on a bassinet stroller, and people would talk behind my back or in front of me, but they didn't understand my situation. And I was so busy raising my child, right? Because, he was an infant. He was only 5 months, and now he's finally 4 years old. And I've been single for so long because I wasn't looking. And now I'm 31, and my parents are like, hey, like, you need to start, like, looking out for yourself. Think about your future, because your son one day will get married, and you have to think about, yourself for once. And then, to be very honest, I opened up the Quran, and there was a verse in the Quran about God creating pairs and finding peace within your spouse. And I said, oh, it stuck out to me, and I was like, okay, maybe it's time, but I'm not rushing it. I agree with you 100%, because you don't know who the individual is, especially when you're bringing them around your children. So that's why I wanted to ask the question, but I had the same mindset, and I totally agree with you 100%. And it's something that I think I have a wall too. I have to like work on breaking it down because I've been so independent for so many years. But now I have to like kind of step out the shell, and like you said, I should start connecting with people that my friends or family members know because there's some sort of background check.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah, also, I mean, as you're Muslim, I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm not sure how I feel about it. But when I first converted and reverted and became Muslim, I joined a revert sisters group and we had a WhatsApp chat. And basically, whenever someone wanted their son or daughter to get married, they would send their, basically a profile about them, a picture of them, talk about, you know, what they did for a living, how old they were, what they were looking for in a relationship. And they circulated these between the sisters. Now, it wasn't something that made me feel comfortable, but looking back on it, it's actually a really good way of being match made, basically, because you know that the person that you're going to be match made with is going to have the same core fundamental values that you will have, rather than trying to cross paths with someone who maybe doesn't share the same values and beliefs that you have. So yeah, I wouldn't rush into it. I mean, if I don't know how long it is that you've been thinking about this, but look, you're only 31. Lots of women are not getting married until their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, you know. It's never too late, you know. And I said this to someone else on the phone. Everybody has their own timeline. You believe in Allah. Allah tells us that He has set out our paths for us, but you have to help yourself. So don't close yourself off, put those barriers down, and just have yourself open to the opportunity that if you do meet someone or somebody knows you, that it could potentially move into something. But, you know, you're a sensible woman, you know, just don't introduce your child to the person until you know 100% that this is serious and that it's going to be moving forward. That's the only thing, you know, and you know that. I know you know that. So you don't need my help. I know you don't.
Thank you so much. But, you know, we always the thing is, I always give great advice, but like, you know, sometimes we have this great advice, but we don't take it all the time for ourselves. So it was just like, you know, that fear of like, you know, finding like, you know, connecting with someone. And then I have to also think of my son. Now there's two people. And, you know, these things come into my mind, but like you said, I have to work on it. And then, inshallah, God willing, everything will fall into place. And, you know, everything's written. So
everything's written, and you have to have faith in Allah. And then when you have those two, there's no problem, sister. You're going to be fine. I promise you. You're a beautiful woman. You've got a lovely child. You know, you've got your career path ahead of you. Just have faith, and it will happen. I promise you. Do you know what's going to happen? I'm going to get a million messages on this podcast, and people are going to be like, "Who is this lady in Toronto? Give me her details."
Only good people, please.
Don't worry, we'll vet them first. We'll vet them first. But listen,
thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate your time, and your podcasts are so lovely and very helpful. And hopefully this question could help other moms too.
100%, 100%. Thank you so much. Take care.
My pleasure.
Bye. Bye-bye. So that was Bella with actually a really important question for women who have children, and how do we find someone to date? Really good question, and I really believe that everything happens in its own time. Don't rush it, and it will come. If you have faith and your beliefs are strong, everything will happen in the right time for you. Well, we've rounded up our 6 questions from our 6 lovely ladies. I really enjoyed this segment. If you'd like to see more segments like this, or you've got any questions or comments, don't forget to put them down below and hit subscribe, like, and add your comments.